Welcome to my Accent is No Accident podcast. I'm your host, Maritza. And our guest today is a man that has a heart for businesses and a decade of marketing expertise. His name is Nate Hallums, founder of Backyard Fishing Agency. He is dedicated to helping companies thrive through innovative strategies. Born in Boston, Massachusetts, and raised on Cobb Cave, Nate Hallums experienced a diverse upbringing. With a father in the Air Force, the family relocated to Europe for 5 years before settling in Southern California. About 6 years ago, Nate moved to Cincinnati to assist family. Married for 35 years, Nate has three grown children. He holds a degree in finance and a minor in mechanical engineering from San Diego State University. After working for a Fortune 15 company for about 8 years, Nate transitioned to entrepreneurship and has been an entrepreneur ever since. Welcome, Nate. It is a pleasure and an honor to have you with us today.
Good morning, Maritza. Always my favorite time to be with you.
Thank you so much for being here. And um, Nate, I would like to ask you our first question. What is your accent? Why is that an accident?
Well, I guess most people think that they don't really have an accent until someone else who speaks differently um, does. Um, you hear that contrast. So I would say my accent really kind of comes from being all over the world, and I think more in terms of your question, I think of my accent being more. The way in which I talk rather than how I sound. And so uh, what I'm open to, the things that are important to me, I guess things like that, are all formed in this of my background that you just went through.
Yes. And I love the fact that you went through different phases on your life, where you were born in Boston, but then your father being in the Air Force, you moved to Europe. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that transitioning? What do you remember?
Yeah, I was pretty young when we were on Cape Cod, but I do have fond memories of it. It was just a great spot. I didn't, as a kid, you don't know that you're in a resort or in a destination place that other people will travel to. Um, so you just enjoy it and live your life. And pretty much the same thing, I guess, when we went to Europe. My father made sure that we were always in the village. If you're in the service, you have a choice of living on the base with other Americans, or you can, yeah, I guess at your discretion. I don't really know how it works, but so we were able to live in the villages in whatever country that we lived in, and then he would commute in to work on the base. So I was always immersed in our culture that where we lived in Germany and Italy and France. And so that was an enriching experience. And again, as a kid, you don't really know. You just absorb. As a child, you're just a sponge. We end up limiting our ability to learn as we become older and get more rigid in our thinking. But as a child, you're just absorbing things literally like a sponge. So it's not one thing at a time. You're just taking in the culture, the relationships, and the language. And in each case, I was conversant in a couple weeks in the local language. So there I did have an accent, right?
Yeah, well, how old were you? You were very young, right?
Yeah, so I started out, I was 7 or so when we first got there. and I was almost a teenager when we left. So
Okay, awesome. So one of the things that is, you probably didn't have a strong accent because um, when you're a child and you learn another language, is y- your brain, like you were saying, you're a sponge, and your brain captures the sounds faster. And if you're there for a period of 5, 6 years, um, probably was very close to a local.
yes, I did get compliments on how I spoke and what my accent was. In fact, later on when we were in California and I was taking Spanish, my Spanish teacher said my accent was very good, and she attributed that to the fact that I had learned Romance languages as a child, and physiologically, I never knew anything about this, but so physiologically, I guess your soft palate develops differently with the Romance language than it does just speaking English or German.
And that is something very interesting because people usually say that not everybody has the ability to learn different languages, but the truth is that we have the ability to learn any language that we want
Hmm.
from an early age. Maybe um, after 40s or 50s or 60s, it might be a different story as far as storing the information in your brain. You might
Hmm.
forget some
Yeah.
more.
Well, to that point, when we first got back to the States, I was speaking in multiple languages because there would be, I'd be speaking primarily in English, but there would be a word that there wasn't a word for in English. And so I'd say it in French or I'd say it in German. And it was just, and I didn't realize it until, I was here for a while and realized what I was doing.
So, I don't know, do you have like, my opinion is that when you are small and you learn different languages, even if whether you are in your country or another country, um, your sense of um, diversity, your sense of welcoming changes, and you're like more open-minded.
Yes, yes. And not having the experience of just being, and I have a lot of friends that they may not have even gotten out of their hometown, let alone traveled to other countries. So yes, it was an experience. And again, as a kid, you're not thinking about any of that stuff, but you're just accepting people and their differences. The difference of the culture. There's the language, of course, but there's the difference of the culture and how people react, and even things as simple as personal space. So I mean, I did a lot of one work in Asia, and there's a whole different concept of personal space there than there is definitely in America, and there's Europe's probably somewhere in the middle.
Yes. So, tell us that. So, I think Asians have a wider sense of a space, right? Or is it closer?
Yeah, yeah, much closer. Yeah, and it's probably China was where I was a lot. So just because you have so many people and you're dealing with mass transportation or whatever else, and so everything's a crowd,
Gotcha. Yeah.
everything's a competition to get to the door. So.
Yes, so the smaller the country, the closer you get. That's true because in Colombia, when we get into public transportation, there are some lines of public transportation. Like for instance in Bogota, that gets so packed, like it's New
Hmm.
York kind of thing. Like everybody's like that, you know, it's very close to each other. Um, Yes, and it is different cultures. And one other thing that I noticed when you were saying is like as a child, you immerse, in the culture without you don't think about differences. It's more about curiosity. Oh, this is how it is done, and it's more about
Hmm.
curiosity, isn't it?
It is, and I remember the first time I went out to play soccer in Germany. A couple of the kids came up and they'd never seen anyone impel, so um, they rubbed my skin to see if it would come off. You know, and there was nothing, negative about it. They were just curious. It was like, "Warum? Warum?" and would just, try to rub it off, and it didn't come off. So that made me intrigued.
Oh, that's so cute. That is so cute. And so when you came back to US, was it a culture shock for you?
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of what my interaction. What stands out are the conversations that I had when when I would use the wrong word. I'd use a French word or whatever it was. So that stands out as something that didn't go smoothly, and they didn't know what to make. So who is this guy? So yeah, so as I finally came back and acculturated here, then yeah, everything was pretty smooth. I just had, like you say, a different level of acceptance than a lot of other people did. For there was really just an introduction of a lot of different cultures into public schools at that time. So um, it just gave me a different orientation. So I had different friends than a lot of the other folks did. So
I get you. So um, moving forward, then you then go to university. You obtained your, which one was it first, the engineering degree or the finance degree?
well, I started out in engineering, and I was playing football, and decided that um, one, I wasn't going to go play pro football, and so I needed to really get serious about my courses. And the engineering, I had completed most of my major. As an athlete, we could choose whatever courses that we wanted. So I was able to kind of jump the line and accelerate that process. And so I didn't ship and decided that that was not what I wanted to do. It was a limited exposure, probably not enough information for me to make that decision, but I did. And I was just intrigued by finance, so I went ahead and finished that degree, and I had done enough engineering to have the minor. So
Oh, that is incredible. So um, when you started working in corporate, and I always like to ask this to entrepreneurs that have been in corporate and come out and get out of it. Was
hmm
there always some sense, how was the process of saying, I want to have my own thing?
yeah. Well, I asked one of I went through an extensive training program. They don't do that stuff anymore, but it was almost 2 years of training. And so I met people from all over the country and became friends with one guy out of Texas. And so we were sitting around his house after one of the training windows, and I took a couple days off and stayed with him. I said, so, and this is closer to when I was leaving, and we were talking about business. And so later, as I left the company, I said, "When did you know I'm leaving?" He said, "Right after I met you." And I hadn't, made this announcement or, talked about specific plans or anything like that. But he just knew, I guess, in the way my manners or the way I thought about things or whatever, um, that I would be out on my own at some point. So
Oh, so you were probably like super overgoing, like going above and beyond and things like that, that you always thought of out of the box.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I did pretty well, and in the corporate world, I was excited because the company I was with, it was IBM, and I was able to get into corporate boardrooms pretty quickly. So as a young kid, I'm asking people to make, multi-million-dollar decisions on big um, computer systems, and those people are generally running the company that are making the decisions at that level. So that was one of the reasons I chose that job, was to be able to have that exposure. I didn't know that I would be exactly in that line or opportunity, but I would at least have the exposure to the executives. So that was really an additional education or degree I was really happy to have and experience. And then that actually even further accelerated my desire to be an entrepreneur and maybe do some of the things that they were doing.
Okay, I got you. So, in today world, in today's day to day, you have a company that helps other companies
Hmm.
um, growing their business, growing their engagement, and growing their visibility per se. Tell us a little bit about that.
So backyard fishing. I'll start with the name. Backyard fishing is it's a homage to my grandfather. Uh, he used to take us fishing, and there was a river about 2 blocks from his house, and so he would take time off in the middle of the day or early in the morning before he would go to work and take us fishing. And rather than just being purely grateful, I was always asking about, can't we go to the big water? Can't we go to the lake, which was, miles away? And so one day he just pulled me aside and said, I want you to always remember this. Make sure you catch all the fish in your own backyard before you go out to the big water. So, so every time I say the name of the company, it brings me back to that little riverbank with him. But it was also, great wisdom. And because I help local businesses essentially try to dominate their local markets, then I took that in mind and made that my moniker. So what we do is really try to get, I mean, it's all the way from creation of all of their digital assets to optimizing those and making sure that those are by the people that are their ideal customers. And then once their ideal customers have seen them and maybe come to their assets, what kind of information do they get? Do they get the information that they were looking for? And ultimately, if you can educate someone, however you do that, if you can educate someone, you become a trusted resource. And if you, particularly if you're doing that without charging them, and then once you're a trusted resource, then they can help. That piece of the equation is taken away, and now I can evaluate you on what you're going to deliver to me. So I try to put my clients in that position so that as much as possible, there's trust and value that's communicated through their assets. And then once they actually get to have a conversation, then that some of those elements are already taken care of because the client or the ultimate clients has seen that stuff. So yeah, and it
Okay.
ultimately ends up not only generating business, but because I'm dealing a lot with small businesses, it's life changing. So they had a dream of being an entrepreneur, and they're trying to execute it as best they can. And maybe they're engineers, as an example, um, something that's unique to the marketplace, and they're selling that. But that's what they do. They don't really do the marketing side, and so I try to step in and be that arm for them. And in some cases, I actually get hired on to the staff in a partial way to be that arm for them once they understand that I've got their best interest in mind.
Okay. So what you're saying that basically is when we are opening a business, it is better to concentrate in what you have locally and expand from there.
Well, it just depends on your business. You might have an e-commerce business and you're selling stuff all over the world. That's not really my specialty. But if you are, so I have a client who is an electrician, and they have about 40, 50 people that work for them. And He's trained a lot of them personally. So I am just trying to, in his case, he's a lot of businesses, and particularly in the trades, they keep the tool in their hand. And so they are running around with the truck. Maybe they get to a point where they're supervising jobs. And if they're open to it, my goal is to help them really become just the business owner. They happen to know what good electricians do in that case, and when they're not doing a good job, but they're focused on running their business. And so kind of giving themselves a promotion, right? Rather than being a field electrician, they're now the president of their company. And I try to help them get to that point. But if they want to have a toolbox in the back of their truck, then we take all of the communication side and advertising side and promotion side out of their hands, and they just have to answer the phone. So and again,
Okay.
anytime you can, in some cases, I've actually helped some trade people. I actually had a business in the solar business, and so on their side of the desk, I know how to do the pricing and the contracting and financing, and so I've actually helped people do those pieces as well.
Okay. Excellent. So, and then that drives me to another question that is very important for entrepreneurs. And then one of them is that, like you say, that 80% of the traction that um, company gets comes from the website. Like if
Mhm.
you don't have a website, kind of like it doesn't have, you don't have credibility. Is that true?
For the most part, yeah, for the most part, if you know all, I mean, it's, in the old days, before we had the internet, obviously people still did business. But it was all based on either traditional advertising, where they would do something in the yellow pages or the newspaper or whatever. And there was still an art to that. So we really just graduated in terms of the media that we use. And now it's a lot more complicated, a lot more crowded, and you're competing with a lot more signals out there, I guess, in terms of how people will find you. So there are obviously businesses that do well without doing a lot of things online, but it certainly makes it a lot easier for them. And again, I look at it as kind of a pre-education, and reputation is a big thing. So it's one of the things that we focus on. Not only I mean, there you could have the most beautiful website in the world, and Google doesn't care.
Hi, I'm very happy to know you are here watching our podcast today. It is an honor to be featuring so many entrepreneurs on the journeys of their inside voice, their accent that is not an accident. And we want to reach out more people like you who are creating a better world of diversity, inclusiveness, equity, and belonging. So please take a moment to hit the subscribe button below, like, and share to others. And even if you want to leave a comment, that'll be nice. Thank you for your support. And now back to the episode.
Here, Google looks at the backside of your website, and there have to
Okay.
be certain things that are the structures there, and because Google is in the trust business. So Google and Bing and YouTube, they're all in the trust business. They want to send people to where they want to go. And so um, the more you can say, it's me, I'm the one that has the message, I'm the one who can answer that question, and you can do that in a digital way, then, and you just have to know the kind of the technical side. I call it the back office of your digital
Yes.
assets. So,
So there are certain words and the SEO that
uh-huh,
everybody hears about it, but not many people are very knowledgeable about.
sure. Yeah, so that search engine optimization, you're trying to optimize your asset, whatever it is, a landing page, a video, your social media site, or your website. You're trying to optimize your page so that the search engine will point people that are searching for your services or products to your assets, not to someone else's assets. And so digital competition that's going on out there. And there are some ways that we have that are some are proprietary, that we structure your assets so they not only rank um, soon, but they also consistently stay well ranked. So, and here's an interesting thing. So with the advent of AI, it can be a boon to businesses, but AI now is standing. AI wants to answer your questions, right? With all the platforms. So you do your search, and there's this AI response. Well, one of the things where AI is not intervening, I'll say, is on YouTube. So YouTube is owned by Google, but you don't, when you do a search for something, best podcaster in Florida, then I want Maritza Perez to come up, right? And there's no AI answer to that. There's just a result that happens in terms of the videos that come up. And so that's so we have focused a lot more recently on videos and making sure that those are at the top of the pile. And so you're getting results in that way. And then you can put those videos on your other assets. So it's kind of a double.
So it's basically using one of like, for instance, what we were doing with one of the videos in my YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
We use one of the videos, but we use it in many ways, in different places, so that for like, I'm trying to translate it to the regular folk that doesn't talk SEO. So you're
Right.
using it in different places so that it gets more clicks or something like that.
Right. Yeah. There's so you want to have eyeballs in general. The more people that are looking at your assets, the more Google or Bing says, "Hey, there's some for whatever reason, people are and Google believes in the traffic, and so for whatever reason, people are going to that asset. So we should pay attention, and we'll start to send people there. Facebook does the same thing." And so you'll notice that if, so here's a simple example. There are algorithms. And so if people can think about their Facebook profile, there's a big picture in the back, and then there's their profile picture. So the big picture in the back is called the cover. If you change out the cover profile picture, people will come to your page that are already connected to you, but never see your stuff, that haven't seen your stuff in 5 years or whatever, however long you've been on the platform, and you first connected with them. There was no reason for the algorithm to send them to your site, and so, but you changed your picture, you did something major, and so that disruption then of the algorithm says, "Hey, everybody, go look at the new thing." So we use that to our advantage, to our clients' advantage, and that's actually one of the services that we do, is changing out your covers. And we don't change it just to change it and get more eyeballs. We actually have, so maybe it's your reputation. We change your cover out, show that you have a great reputation, and then that implicitly, there's a lot of subconscious stuff that goes on when you think about marketing. And this goes back into,
Yes.
even the 50s, and Park Avenue and all that stuff. The more you see things that reinforce a positive view, or negative, I guess, then the better you feel about it already. You're not even conscious
Mhm. So
but there's a social proof that happens.
exactly. So let me ask you something in that matter. So let's, for instance, take us on LinkedIn, right?
Uh-huh.
So usually, you see people with the same background and the same picture
Mm-hmm.
all the time, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't change. Um, I haven't changed mine in a while, but I
Mm-hmm.
changed my photo
Mm-hmm.
not too long ago, or probably already more than a year probably. So
Mm-hmm.
would it be recommended that you freshen up those like every 6 months or something, even if you go back to an old one and then come
Yeah.
up?
Yeah, that would be it's less critical on LinkedIn than it is on Instagram um, or Facebook.
on Facebook?
Uh, and and one of the reasons that there's a whole industry for social media posting is because activity. Google wants they want trust, consistency, and frequency. And the understanding is that your frequency will be reinforcing the other two. So you're not just putting random things up for clicks, you're putting more and more good information. So the structure part helps get the trust because you've structured it right. You've structured it the way the lens of Google, the lens of Facebook wants to see things. And then you're providing information, you're adding value to people that do come to those assets. And that shows up because people engage. And that's why, someone asks you to um, like and and subscribe and all of those things, all of those activities and comment.
Yeah.
So liking is at one level, commenting is at another, responding to the comment. So the thing with responding to social media posts, if someone says anything on your post or on your page, respond, and that helps lift your place in the algorithm. And then um, uh, if you have video on there, that's another added level of engagement. And if people stay on your video and learn something and watch something, so all of those things are additive. And then if you can build this web of syndication, essentially of all good things, then you're even in better shape than your competitors are. So those things happen, and make sure you start out or redo some of the things and I've seen some of the most beautiful websites, and Google doesn't even know they exist,
Okay.
So
All right. So now that leads me to one of the questions that people ask: how can we make our websites more inclusive?
yeah, well, I mean, it can start with just the images that you use. So there's, a lot of images that are available now, and a lot of times you think you're looking at 50s, Park Avenue, sort of a set of models that are being used for the settings. So put yourself on there, put yourself on the website, and then when you're, and so here's another thing. Uh, One of the things, so I've talked about reputation, how critical that is, and there's a number of different signals that sends out. So reputation, again, high scores, frequency. So ideally, you're getting reviews on a more consistent basis. And so that means there's continual traffic in whatever your products or services are. um, you have we provide a service, and I'm sure there are other people that provide a similar service that I can now, if the customers open to it, I can put their faces on the review. And now if I have a diverse customer base, then now you can see that. So it's a kind of a multi-pronged benefit for having put up that review as a little something that's more than just some words. But yeah, starting with the images, you can start there, and then you can also one of the big items for new content is a blog, and kinds of things that you talk about in your blog will help be more expansive and inclusive.
And the other thing is the ADA, right?
Right, right, right. Yes, and so yeah, that is another. Um, in structuring the site, one of the things that is important is that your images actually have this tag on them, and no one can see that. see that again. It's kind of the back office side of the website, but there's a tag there that you can use it with your keywords and how people are searching for you. But part of the benefit of that makes your site more ADA compliant, and so it's called an alternative attribute. And so for people that so Google, if the site is ADA compliant, the search engine will actually read you that tag if you're vision impaired, or it may show you the tag if you're hearing impaired. So all of those things are important, and that's actually a great, very few people think about the ADA compliance, and it's going to become more
Yes.
and more important. It's not to.
Yes. And I think the two of us had talked about it before because
Hmm.
we've known each other for like over a year, almost two
Sure,
years.
yeah, a couple of years, yeah.
So we have talked about it. And it's important because not everybody, like for instance, the colors of the brand of my company, they're not very visible for somebody that is color blinded or that have limited visibility.
Hmm.
So it will be better if an ADA component is added to that.
Sure. And Google knows that, right? So that's another, it's not anything that you did other than to put, basically a piece of software on your site,
Yes,
and then make sure you have all these other things that are labeled properly. So,
incredible. So we're almost getting to the end, and I don't
hmm.
want to leave without giving you the opportunity to tell people how they can find you and where they can find you.
Sure. Well, our website is backyardfishingagency.co. So backyardfishingagency.co. And a consulting site up soon. One of the other things that we do is for people that have multiple employees, we provide a wellness program. And if they need health insurance, we can help with that. But the wellness program is I'm always trying to put money back in the pockets of the owners of the business, and because of the way this is structured, there's some tax advantages, and they receive money for everybody who's in the plan every year, and so that'll be um, some version of backyard. I'll have something on my backyardfishingagency.co pointing to that. And then for people that are looking for, we're going to provide financing as well. So we have a financing arm. There's a big difference in the way people finance their businesses now is typically off of their own social security number. And not only is there a lot more money available, it's a lot safer for you and your family if you do it based off of the EIN number of your business. And so we completely separate the two. And now you have true corporate credit. And because corporate credit is designed more or designed of your um, expenses, not the way we traditionally think of credit, where we have to have a certain income. We can only spend a portion of that income to buy our home or to buy our car. The corporate world works completely differently, and there are corporate credit databases, and we make sure the structure is proper, and you get onto those, and it's 0 to 100, not 0 to 850. And so we've got a process and method that will get you into the 90s and get you probably 5, 10 times the amount of credit that you could get on your own. So as people if they have a need to expand their business, that's another service that we're adding on. So just
Okay,
trying to
well,
get everybody equipped to be their best business and their best selves, and also be protected and use all of the tax laws and everything else to their advantage.
I love that insight. Thank you so much for that information. Didn't know. I'm probably gonna have to schedule now a time with you.
Yeah, yeah, it's
So
Go ahead.
In the website, they can find a place where they can schedule a time with you,
Right.
and then
Right.
an email as well. Anything
Yes.
else that you would like to leave the audience with?
Um, I would just say pay attention to just your, I mean, you don't have to do anything fancy, but just pay attention to how well and uniformly your digital presence has been built, or if you're modifying things, make sure that every place there's a thing called citations, and it can be one of the most damaging things. That's a very simple item to businesses that are trying to do all this other work to get found online. And so if you just think of name, address, and phone number, that needs to be consistent across the web. It can't be DR in one place and drive in another, or suite with a number in one place and SUITE in another place. So just very, very, and you'd be amazed at how many different places businesses get listed. So if you do nothing else, invest in a citation review audit, I guess, and then get that fixed if there's any problem with that. And that will be a great start to doing it. But other than that, I would say, um, to set up a website, I guess ask people that you're dealing with, ask them, are they familiar with this? And it's okay if they aren't. I mean, some people are really the kind of the graphic design side, and there's stuff that I couldn't ever do that they can do. Uh, so just ask them, not as a denigration or anything, but if they are familiar with it, and if not, then make sure that they are able to at least tap into somebody who is. So as they're doing all this great and beautiful work for you, it also on the bare bones side, it's also structured properly so that there's no reason to have a bookmark on the web, I guess is my point, because no one's going to look for the bookmark. You need to have a working asset, and those assets should be delivering something to you. So I tend to think in terms of return on investment. Some of my services, you don't pay for it all until they produce. So um,
Yes,
I think it should
exactly.
all be, people are in business, they're spending hard-earned money, they're making a choice and a decision to work with you as a marketer, and you should be able to deliver something more than something that's pretty.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your time, Nate, today. It was very insightful, and we got a lot of nuggets on how to have our presence in the digital world. And to you, my audience, thank you for being here with us today. And remember, you came to this world because a great source, God, the universe, brought you here with love to be loved and love one another. Until next time, bye.
Bye. Thanks, Maritza.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Maritza here. If you like this episode of My Accent is No Accident podcast and would like to listen more like this, subscribe wherever you're listening to it or watching it. Leave us a nice review and share with your friends, family, and network. Thanks for listening.